Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Kent.
Hello, everyone. So
Hello.
just just an invitation. I'm writing bite-sized trust videos, if you haven't seen some of them, and I'm trying to learn more about DIDs so that I can make more educational videos to teach other people about DIDs, and I'm stuck. So if anyone wants to meet with me for 20 minutes and teach me a bit more about DIDs and answer all my questions, but not as sycophantically as ChatGPT does, then I can do a better job of explaining them in these training videos. Just putting that out there.
That's cool. Well, all I know about DIDs is what I know about DidWebS, so I might only be of help in that regard.
Right. Maybe even just to understand some of the basic architecture. And I'll put up a list of the videos that we already have. And I'm trying to write a bit more about like there are a bunch of different keys that are present in DID methods, like authentication keys, why you would use them versus the communication keys, which are serving a different purpose to try and get people understanding that a DID is more than just, using it for authentication and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, please drop the links here. I'd like to take a look.
Yeah. So these are the published ones. I have another one coming up, another two coming up. And the one of them is related to Carrie a bit, because it's asking detecting dig document duplicity. So just the idea that to use like the advantages of self-certifying identifiers and watchers and witnesses in order to detect. Because I could have my dig document and then I could just change it. And if nobody is watching it to see my change, then nobody's going to detect my duplicity. And that's why we need to have, and that things like Carrie do that, solve it, but others have, there are other ways as well. Anyway, those are the videos. And I'm working next on trying to talk a bit more about the functionalities of keys. Thanks.
Okay, cool. I'll put those in the notes. All right, well, we may as well get started. I don't know who else is going to come. Hello, Hank. Good to see you. We'll go ahead and I'm going to share my screen here.
Hi,
Hi, Hank.
And
is Jonathan Rayback not coming?
Hi, Sam.
let's see
Hello.
if I haven't heard anything from him today. Will you be at the meeting?
Okay, because that was one of the action items was to comment. He had some. He had reviewed the UR the your said URN specific
The
stuff.
ABNF. Well, what I'll do, I actually have, so let me show the agenda real quick. I am actually going to jump on the other link and see if anybody's there, and then I'll be right back. So the
Oh,
agenda for
yeah, some
today,
people may have gone to the other link.
yeah, that's what happened last time too. So there's the said URN ABNF. Jonathan proposed something on there, and then Daniel Hardman was going to use half of this meeting to do the dossier implementation guidelines. So I'm going to jump on the other link. I'll be right back. I'm going to see if anybody's over there. And if they are, I'll just have them come here and then we'll just get started. So I'll be right back. Okay, we got Daniel Hardman coming and Daniel Lensko coming. So we'll start when they jump over. I'll go ahead and share my screen and show the agenda again. Let's show, no, this one. And just in case anybody didn't know, you can use the universal resolver with both did WebS and did carry. That's what I've got running here in the background. Okay, if we go to the meeting plan, is there anything else that we should put on the agenda today? We've got these two items right here. Review the SED, URN ABNF, and the dossier implementation guidelines. Let me send something to, give me just a second here. I need to send something to Daniel Hardman. I don't know if he actually got the link from the chat. Let's see. Daniel. There he is. Okay. Able to get it. Okay. Hey, Daniel. Good to see you.
Hello.
Okay, so just going back to the agenda, the two items that we have for today is the one that's relevant to did WebS is the SED URN and ABNF. And then the dossier implementation guidelines. This is something that we were proposing to use. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey guys, sorry, I just was getting off another meeting. Apologies for running a little late.
Okay, I was just reviewing the agenda, and what we agreed last week was that half of today's meeting would actually be given to Daniel Hardman to use to talk about the dossier implementation guidelines. For the did WebS portion, then we're going to review the SED URN ABNF, and those are the only two agenda items we have for today.
Okay, cool.
Is there anything else we should add from anybody?
I just would like to, I would like to just mention the diff recommended did method process, Kent, something that I think you and I should bring to diff and should initiate and soon, like possibly before the next meeting. So maybe we just talk about that really quickly.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. Well, let's jump right into it. And I think what we can do, so do you want to talk about that first, or do you want to go over the URN ABNF first?
I can do either. I mean, I guess both my topics. Yeah. Okay, so the diff recommended did method process is in full swing now. There are did WebVH is currently in the formal review stage for another couple weeks, and looks like it will be the first formally recognized diff recommended did method. Did checked is going to start the process tomorrow. Did Web Plus will start the process next week, and Did Skid is scheduled to start the process sometime in early October. So I would just recommend, Kent, you and I put our heads together, because I think between the two of us, it would actually be, I think we could actually start the process literally anytime, because we've already submitted the initial proposal template, which is the material that we use in the initial review with the working group. So it would just be a matter of you and I re-reviewing what we've said in that that template that we filled out probably 6 or 7 months ago, and making sure that it says what we want it to say, and then just scheduling the meeting with the chairs, of which I'm one. So it's just basically picking the day we want to do it, the Wednesday we want to do it. So if you and I wanted to get together, I think we should just do that. And I'm just letting the group know that we'll take the reins on that.
Okay. So I'm not gonna lie, this just seems really silly to me, this whole process. I'm like, why did we do a whole standardization run on did methods, all this other stuff, and now we're doing an officially blessed set? I mean, I just got a little bit upset when I heard, okay, did WebVH is going to be the first formally recognized. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
by diff as a diff recommended did method. But like, so, I guess you could also just say you don't care and we don't care and we don't do it.
Well, here's the thing. Now, because of that, I want to understand what's the value prop for us doing this? And I'm going to assume there is value. I don't want to say there's not value. I'm not here to be contrarian.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just,
Can I make a comment?
yeah.
So so the did specification came out of the W3C. And when it originally happened, there were only a handful of did methods. They were all blockchain based. And so blockchain based dids had inherent security properties. Um, there wasn't really good uh, policy at that point in time as to how do you manage the potential proliferation of DIDs. The policy was, well, let's let people experiment, and that was the official stated policy of the W3C DID working group, that it's too early, we need to have experimentation, and that the market will eventually uh, decide which DID methods are usable. That didn't happen. The market didn't winnow out bad DID methods. It fostered DID proliferation to the tune of over 200 W3C DID methods. So the diff is basically saying, okay, that was a bad idea. We need to have some process that says what DID methods have some reasonable degree of security. So it's a good thing to fix a bad thing. Um,
Yeah.
if the
Yeah.
bad thing happened and could have been anticipated, well, that's water under the bridge. Given that they're now trying to basically winnow down, then it's to the benefit of did WebS to be part of that because it gives people a checkbox they can check and say, okay, uh, I'm a policymaker. I'm trying to figure out what did methods to use. I can't just use W3C as a guide because it's all over the map, but I can use diffs, trusted did method. So I would say it's to the benefit of this community to get that recognition.
I'll piggyback on that and just provide a little bit more detail. Thanks, Sam. That's a really good introduction to the concept. So Diff also does not consider itself a standards body because it's not, and nobody else recognizes it as a standards body. The standards bodies that matter for governments and for large enterprise are W3C and ISO. Those are the only two that matter as far as the Diff's point of view. And Diff does recognize itself as a standards incubation body. So it's a good place to come, bring your thing, work on it, get it fleshed out before you submit it to a standards body. One of the work items that we have completed in the Diff did methods working group is we have drafted the charter for the proposed W3C did methods working group, which is the official W3C effort to solve the problem that Sam just described. And that draft charter specifically requests that at least 3 flavors of did methods be formally recognized as standards by the W3C. Web-based methods, ephemeral methods, and fully decentralized methods. So at least one of those 3 types will become actual W3C standards for each of those categories. There will be a web standard, there will be an ephemeral standard, there will be a fully decentralized standard. As the like as an annex to that draft charter, a number of existing specs were proposed as start with these, okay? DidWebVH is one of them for the DidWeb. DidWebS is another for the web-based method. DidWeb+ is another for the web-based method. If we do nothing, if we do nothing to continue to shore up the DidWebS case argument for it, it DidWebVH, which ticks every single box. Like there's a reason it's the first one. It's the only did method I am currently aware of that literally ticks every single box for what's required in did core, what's required in the did method registry. All of the extensions are registered. It passes the all of the tests for the W3C. It 100% is um, the universal resolver works, which we've just fixed for did WebS, but like no other did method I'm aware of does that. If we want to be in the conversation and have did WebS be in the conversation in the W3C working group, I think we need to do this.
Well, thank you for filling me in. I was ignorant of a lot of this. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Jonathan. I really didn't understand what this effort was about until now. And I agree. I think we should get in and we should really push it hard and we should be the second or the third.
And I don't think it's going to be hard, Kent, either. It's not going to be
Yeah.
hard. Like I said, I think we're ready to we really are ready to start the process. It will take like 10 minutes of you and I looking over the thing we've already filled out and then scheduling a session.
Okay, well, what I'll do then is I'll reach out to you and set a time. I'll get on your
Yep.
calendar, Jonathan,
Yep.
and then we can figure this out.
Perfect.
Okay, let me do action items. Because I agree, it's now's the time. And consider me converted.
Okay.
Okay, Jonathan. Kent to get Jonathan's schedule and figure.
I have a question, Jonathan.
Yeah.
You
Hank.
just mentioned that DidWeb VH ticks all the boxes. Does it also tick all the security boxes?
So this is the point behind the did recommended process. The diff recommended process makes no quality judgments. What all it's trying to do is say, does it tick all the boxes? Meaning, is it registered? Is it like what we're trying to say? And I think Sam hit it right. Like what we're trying to do is winnow things down. We're not going to make a decision for the implementer as to which did method they should use. It's up to them to make their own judgments around security and privacy and what works for them and performance and all those things. It's totally up to them to do it. But what we are saying to them is if you want to look at a short list of did methods where the spec is well written, it passes all of the tests, it fulfills all the requirements of did core, right? These are the ones, this is the short list of ones you should evaluate. And we just would like for obviously did WebS to be on the short list of did methods to evaluate because it has such great properties, we want those to be considered. And the only thing that would keep it from being a serious contender right now is just paperwork, right? We just have to finish some stuff that we just never finished, right? We've got to finish the spec and we got to, make it past the tests and like all the things it should do. We just need to finally do it.
So to amplify that, once you have a fully compliant W3C did method, the next question someone might ask is, well, what about security? And W3C isn't in a position to have an opinion about that, but independent security audits of did methods would. So, for example, we now have Cardano paid for an independent security audit of Carry. They're working to publish that. I mean, they promised to work with the legal staff to see if they can publish it. There's been another security audit that's not published that Health Carry, one of its partners, did of Carry. So those independent security audits go a long way to addressing what is secure, and at some point somebody's going to pay to contrast, say, did WebVH with did WebS, and that will be the proof in the pudding at that point.
And those security audits, by the way, we should just make sure that we have that included in the materials that are evaluated by the diff working group as it goes through the diff recommended process, because in the after action report, the summary report that comes out after the recommendation has been made, it's another third party saying, we agree that we've seen these third party security audits and we agree that they're there and you can take these to the bank. Like it's just another level of like double check, triple check, whatever.
Okay.
We are currently in the process of offering diff an upgrade migration to SpecUp T.
Oh, great.
Maybe it helps if we do the specification of did WebS in SpecUp T as well. And I offered to do that for you. So we could migrate it to SpecUp T, which has the latest functionality, etc.
That might be really great. Yeah, let's talk about that for sure. Yeah, you want to put that on the action items, Ken? That we look at migrating to SpecUp T?
And we should migrate to
Yeah.
SpecUp T because all the other
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do
If
it.
I could just do a point of time, we're we probably want to get to the
Yeah.
URN said stuff before we run out of time because
So can somebody, I honestly just need to look at the PR that I submitted for this, and I
Yeah.
just have to find it. If somebody has it super handy, it
Got it right here.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll zoom in a little bit. Give me
Yeah.
just
Okay. So, and by the way, there's a very similar, I think that this is a very similar ABNF. I have a pull request to make this change in the DidWebS spec as well. But the broad strokes here is, and I've had this conversation with Phil as well, and so it's probably good just to run it past Sam. But essentially, basically, what we're trying to say is like, it can't just be any, it shouldn't just be any base 64 URL safe string, because we know it's not just any base 64
yeah,
URL.
it can't. It has to be from. It has to. You have to include something that says that this one character code translates to Blake 3, and this one character code translates to Blake 2S, and this one character code translates to Blake 2B, and this one translates to Shaw 3 256, so on. Right?
So hang on, I want to hear more about that. Let me
Well,
back
that's what
up.
those codes represent.
Yes,
In other words,
correct.
it doesn't do you any good to have a URN that says, hey, we've got this 44 character string is part of the URN. Nobody can verify it because it's actually representing a cryptographic algorithm.
That's right. That's right. So
But
hang on. Let me back up. Let me back up to the starting point, and then I've gotten to this point, and now my question is: are we supposed to go further? Which is essentially what you're
well,
suggesting.
the
So
ABNF is correct, right?
yeah,
If you basically say it must at the syntactical level,
yes,
you
that's
want
all it
these
is.
characters and this
Correct.
long, and if it's this long, these characters,
Correct.
right?
So what I'm trying to say is like if someone gets a URN and they're trying to evaluate whether it's a valid URN, I think the farthest they can go to evaluate its correctness without actually resolving it and like unhashing, checking the actual value of the hash
Right.
is to
So there
just
should be a
say
note.
it's
There should
it's
be a
going to
note
be
that goes,
base 64 URL characters of this length, and it has to have one of these prefix
yes,
codes or one of these two character prefix codes. And the only downside to this particular ABNF is it is tied to a specific version of Caesar. So that's the main thing we just have to say that and in the in the did WebS context, Phil and I thought that was fine because we thought we would release these specs all as a suite at the same time. And we would basically say did WebS at this point in time is dependent on this version of carry at this time. And if we want to upgrade it later, we'll upgrade it later if there are additional codes and additional ways to represent some other hash in the future that we don't have currently in the Caesar spec.
right. And so what you would want to say is that this represents the Caesar code table. So use the Caesar code table genus. It is our stated intent that we not change primitive codes once they've become hardened. And so all of these are hardened. There's no reason for us to ever change them.
Right.
What is going to change is that we'll add additional codes, not change codes that exist. So you won't worry about the version uh, uh, making an existing code like in the spec be invalid, but you may get a URN with a code that isn't in this list of E, F, G, H, I, because a later version of the Caesar spec added
Right.
a new digest code.
And so we would just then have to update the said URN
Yeah,
version in the future
yeah,
additively, Carly.
absolutely. Yeah, that's the intent.
Right.
And I think they were quite accepting of as long as it's backwards compatible. And then it
Yes.
Yes,
was
yeah, that's the
another
intent.
email.
For primitives,
Yeah.
it should be always backwards compatible. And indeed, for group codes, once you get to version 2, which is what the specs, we're promulgating now are, is just that everybody's implemented version 1. The group codes, the universal group codes will be always backwardly compatible. So this problem goes away, But what we do have is that we'll continue to add codes to the Caesar tables over time. And so you might get a code that fails your ABNF because you've got a one character code. So you could say that that the one character code is limited to those characters is for for the version of the Caesar genus, but that any compliant 44 character one must be a one character code. So there may be other one character codes. So a parser may decide to accept it if it's a one character code and then pass it off to the algorithm that actually verifies it. And then in that case, it would fail the verification. So you could simplify it to just say it's a one character code that is your URL safe, not including underscore and dash. It can't be either of those two characters, and it can't be 0 through 9. It can't be any of the numbers or underscore or dash. It has to be a letter, and then it would be syntactically correct because the only digests would have to one character code digest would have to fit the one character code table, and numbers and underscore and dash are not allowed in that table.
So does that mean that we can take this one character code on line 33 and add some more specificity to it? Or is it good as it is because it's limited to just these
In the
characters?
opposite, he's saying we could actually remove that specificity if we wanted to, and just say
Yes,
character
and
code.
just say that, but
I
it's not any character. You have to say it's one characters of the and you have 43. There's oh yeah, 43 base. Yeah, so there are 64 characters in the URL safe character set for a one character code digest. Numbers and the underscore and dash are not allowed. So that's what you would say. It must, you'd put the bracket thing for capital A through Z, comma, little a through Z.
But hang on, like, so Ken, we have to just make this decision. So we could do that. I don't know what the groups what people favor. That makes it more future proof. It makes it less specific today.
Yeah, but this, the specificity is removed from the ABNF portion, but it is remained with that, with the requirement that the SED must come from the Caesar specification version 2.
Correct. If we're saying that though, then we might as well put it like this because this is actually helpful for somebody to determine the validity of a URN.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
if it really must come from version 2.0, then literally this is it. It will only be one of these.
Right, right.
So I wouldn't see any reason to
Well,
make more general at that point. But
the question though is a parser is going to be two stages of parsing. The first stage is it has to strip the SED from the URN. And so, if you give it a 45 character SED, it's going to throw it out without doing any more examination, right? That's what an ABNF parser would do. So the second level would be, is it a one character, and is the character not, is it of this element? And then it says, okay, what specific one characters correspond to digest that I know about? And so I could see the idea of specifying the ABNF less tightly, because you're going to say that the second level of parsing is that you're going to have to look it up in the table, and it's looking it up in the table that tells you, that it's E, F, G, H, and I, but it can't be, regardless of what's in the table, it can't be underscore or dash or 0 through 9 because those are not valid
Sure.
one character codes in Caesar.
I
Those
just,
are
I just,
lesser codes in Caesar.
I think that makes a good, I mean, yeah, it's valid. I come at it from the other point of view in a way of like just going even visually. If I look at this thing and I know that this, if it's true that this ABNF is reflective of Caesar 2.0, for example, and I just visually look at it and I see that the first character after the URN, the header or whatever, the prefix is like Z, like I already know it's just that's bogus. It's bullshit. Like it's not right, right? It can't be right, right?
No, I agree.
So like,
I'm wondering if in the application that you have notes to implementers that allow them to make to recognize that. But I could go either way. I'm not trying to, you know, I'm
Carly, what
trying
is
to
your thought on
anticipate
this? I
what
mean,
the Iona gods that do ABNF
yeah,
parsing are going to say.
yeah, I don't know either. But I can change it. That it's easy to change it to the other because it's really just now instead of those specific values, we're just selecting for the 64 valid, capital and lowercase letters basically. But
Uh,
um,
So I have a
I would leave
question.
the text the way
52.
it is
Yeah.
because I don't believe that the people who are implementing this method will be writing a parser. They'll be doing regex matching.
mhm. So
I
Dan,
have
you
a,
think keep it like this or change it to more general?
Keep it like it is.
Okay.
Okay.
I just have one question then to confirm. So it quotes the said in string representation as per Caesar version 2.0, section 11.6. I'm
Right.
assuming that that table, when that table gets updated, there will be a version increment.
Correct.
So your ABNF, the writing it more generally doesn't preclude it still doesn't allow more letter choices because it won't happen until there's a version increase. So it just means that when we do a version increase of Caesar and SEDS reflects that, then this application must be updated in two
Correct.
places. You have to change the version of the SED of Caesar reference, and then you have to rewrite the ABNF.
That's right. But if you're going to go in here and edit this spec or this definition anyway, you just change it in
Yeah.
two places. You're right. And if you don't change it in two places, then people are just going to be using, the standard is going to be reliant on an outdated version of Caesar,
Yeah.
and that will be the issue that needs to be resolved, which is
Yeah.
resolved by just updating it in two places, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I think we're good, Kent. I think we can just leave it as is and probably merge it or whatever.
Okay. So this is to the said URN charter. Does this ABNF need to go anywhere else besides the did WebS spec?
Well, it's a little bit different in the did WebS because obviously the prefix and stuff are different, but the concept is the same. I'm not aware of anywhere else it needs to go.
Okay, do we want to take a look at that one, or is this good for
No,
today?
I don't think we can look at it.
All right. Okay. Well, if we go back to our agenda, then the next item is to give the time to Daniel Hardman, so we can just say the did WebS meeting is we're drawing it to a close. Are there any other comments? Is there anything else we should mention on did WebS before we close this part of the meeting? Okay. Thank you everybody for coming here, and the floor is yours, Daniel. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I'll turn on my camera here. I'd like to start by doing a couple of logistical things. The spec that I want to write, I'm calling it a spec in my own mind, but Sam was suggesting that we reframe it as a dossier implementer's guide, and I'm not opposed to that framing, but if you hear me say the word spec, that's maybe just a vestige of my my thinking. I'm imagining I'm going to be using spec up to capture it, and just like we're doing with a lot of these other things. Um, I have a lot of content that I would like to propose for this thing. I don't know if people would like to, should I create a straw man or should I just create an outline and then we discuss each specific thing separately? So that's kind of a logistical question. But maybe before, let that question simmer in your brain for a minute, and let me go on to another thing. I'd like to see if I can convince everybody that the phenomenon that I want to write about is even interesting. So let me talk about what I think a dossier is and why it's an interesting category of evidence. Most of the discussions that I've heard about Carrie's superpower, the AC/DC superpower of, assembling an entire data graph of evidence, have been framed in terms of an interaction with a verifier where the verifier says exactly what they want. So the interaction begins with the verifier saying, okay, I need to see exactly the following things, at which point the person that holds evidence in AC/DC format, and I'm carefully not saying credentials because the evidence could be things like affidavits or, that don't have an issuee. The person that holds that evidence goes and assembles a bespoke credential and is a bespoke AC/DC anyway, that explicitly matches the verifier's criteria. Now, the way that I'm using AC/DCs in telco doesn't match this pattern. Because there is no verifier that asks a question before the evidence is submitted to somebody else. So that's one way that this departs from the bespoke AC/DC paradigm. The second way that it departs is that it's an unbounded set of evidence. So it's kind of like if somebody said, oh, you're a creative type, you're a graphic artist applying for some kind of a recognition or whatever, submit your I'll use the word dossier. Submit your portfolio of projects you've worked on. And the set of things that somebody might submit then is unbounded. Nor do we know in advance what like the verifier knows the general nature of the kind of stuff they want to see and could possibly specify that, but can't enumerate all the possible edges that must exist in the data graph or and what their data types have to be in advance. So this is the problem domain that I'm interested in exploring with the concept of dossiers. I don't know if that problem domain is really distinct from the problem domain of bespoke data graphs that you generate to satisfy a verifier or not. But I kind of think it might be. And then I think another aspect of this problem domain that's interesting to me is what do you do when you have evidence, but it's not an AC/DC? And the answer I want to propose is you generate an AC/DC that wraps your evidence. And in doing that, you eliminate the need for the verifier to handle some other evidence type. So let's say you have a signed PDF. A signed PDF is something that verifiers might consider relevant to a particular question. Maybe it's a signed PDF because you went through some DocuSign workflow or whatever. But you don't want to require in an unbounded set of evidence, the verifiers shouldn't have to be able to handle every conceivable format of evidence that they encounter. So what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to generate an AC/DC version of that PDF. And it's very simple. The wrapper is probably just here's the signature of the data that I'm embedding, and here's a statement by me, the wrapper of this evidence, saying that I verified this evidence at such and such a time. So you've not only changed the format, but you've also changed the logical proposition that your evidence proves. It's no longer whatever the signed PDF was supposed to prove, but it's rather that somebody evaluated the signed PDF at a particular point in time, and now you're trusting a new assertion. The alternative is that you literally embed just a hash of some other evidence type in the AC/DC, but the problem with that is that now the verifier has to handle verifications of evidence that have a completely different process and a different lifespan than the AC/DC, right? There's no anchored signature, so you probably can't evaluate the evidence after the moment when it's presented, et cetera, et cetera. So I've talked for a long time, but I want to get some reactions. Do people feel like this is an interesting enough problem domain that it deserves its own discussion?
I certainly do. I just wanted to amplify a couple of things you said. Technically, a bespoke AC/DC is really a presenter issued AC/DC.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be bespoke in the sense that you make it up on the fly. It could be well defined, but it's that the presenter is issuing it, and then they can assemble whatever they want. I think that there is a challenge right now. The policy is, well, what AC/DCs should people formulate? What did their schema look like? And we have pushed that off on to the ecosystem governors with an ecosystem governance framework to define that. But that means that if that governance body doesn't exist or nobody's taking the lead, then there's no guidance in how you would put together different types of evidence that you would put in a graph, an AC/DC graph. So one of the reasons I suggested calling it, I mean, it's still a spec. An implementation guideline is still a spec, but calling an implementation guideline is because there isn't an ecosystem specific that says we're going to define what our credential set looks like. You're basically saying if you have these sorts of pieces of evidence, including evidence that's of other types as you mentioned, what are interoperable guidelines that we could propose that would allow people to build ecosystem governance frameworks from those, or for people to decide to use them interoperability absent an ecosystem governance framework. And so I think it's valuable because it fills a big gap in between the, you know, wild west of we don't know, AC/DCs can do whatever they want, and ecosystem governance frameworks that says, well, these are the ones, these are the schema for the ones that we recognize, and anything else, you know, is outside of our purview. So I like you know, work along those lines, especially interoperability with other document formats that need to be you know, brought into the tent, so to speak. And how do you bring them into the tent in ways that people recognize and can make the trade-offs?
Okay. Do you feel like it's I talked about other evidence formats and I used signed PDFs as an example, but another one that's highly relevant is W3C verifiable credentials.
Yep. And that we proposed that at the W3C, and it's in the spec, right? AC/DCs are what technically a an envelope type.
Right.
So how do you envelope other verifiable credentials? That's a that's a whole section in and of itself.
Okay. It would be a great story to say, W3C verifiable credentials. There's this document that specifically says how an AC/DC can wrap a W3C verifiable credential in section 4, or
Yeah.
whatever. And
And an MDL.
exactly, a mobile driver's license is exactly the same. So, okay. Well, I said to let the my first question about logistics and so forth simmer for a little while. Coming back to it, I did not yet get Rye to make me a repo. I said I would. I've had a funeral that I've been at, and I've been a little bit distracted the last several days, but I will do that today. Once I create that, my logistical questions are, um, you know, should I dump a bunch of thoughts somewhere? And then should I keep using the second half of Kent's meeting, or should I create a separate meeting? And what kind of a communication channel do you think would be an effective way to chat with people about it?
I would say set up a Discord chat. We have a Web of Trust Discord chat. Trust RP doesn't support it, but we can certainly support it on Web of Trust. Um, I would recommend, using the second half of this meeting, if it's okay with the did web us people, because usually we don't have that much work in this meeting anyway. It usually ends early, and we can be flexible in that regard. I would suggest, Daniel, that you start with your VVP and do the split that you're working on with the IETF version, and use that as your first draft of a guideline, and then that will give meat to the bone of people being able to make contributions, because it'll give it a structure. And then I anticipate that you're going to end up doing a lot of work, since you.
That's fine. I have to do the work anyway,
Yeah.
in my telco problem domain. So it just gives me a better place to do it that's more collaborative. Okay. Kent, how often are you having the DidWebS meeting? Is it once every 2 weeks?
Yeah, this is the only downside to using this call, is that it happens once a month, the third Tuesday of every month.
But we can add time in the carry implementers call, which meets all the other weeks. So once a month we have the carry suite working group. Once a month we have this one, and then the other 2 weeks are the carry implementers call. And so if something's more timely, I would just add it to the agenda for the carry implementers call.
Okay, well, if people don't mind me constantly raising my hand in another meeting and saying, "Can I have 5 minutes?" then it's fine with me.
I I'll be supportive of it now.
Okay.
Anybody else have a problem?
I'm sure this is a topic of general interest to a lot of different people. And
Okay.
seems interesting to me.
And how do I create the Discord channel? I know how to create the repo with Rye, but the Discord channel?
I think Kevin is the one with the admin rights for that. So just ask
Okay,
Kevin.
I'll ask Kevin then. Thanks. Well, that's probably enough for today then. Uh, I guess yeah, let me go do some of this logistical work so that there's a place to talk, a place to put content, and I'll start up some conversations on subtopics in the channel and Discord then. And next week I'll be back at an off meeting, not a DidWebS meeting, but another one to talk about this some more.
And I think the wrapping W3Cs and MDLs is timely because I've actually seen some people trying to wrap MDLs and saying, is this how we do it in an ECDC?
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, thank you for giving me some time on your agenda, Kent.
Welcome. And I think if the only other thing that we might mention before we close is that the next regularly scheduled DidWebS meeting date is October 21st, which is the first day of IIW. So we'll have to decide if we want to meet before then. Otherwise, you'll see everyone else at IIW. And I think that's all for today. Give everybody back 8 minutes to their life.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Later.
Thank you.